So we are the Unpublishables, and this is Leslie the Explainer. I'm Richard the Complainer, and this is our first episode, and we're going to be talking about exactly who we are and what it is that we want to achieve from this. I mean, it is where the slush pile bites back, but I think the main thing to stress right from the very start is that yes, we bite back, but it's a bite without venom. We're not going to spend too much time complaining about all that's wrong about the traditional publishing world. Yes, there is a lot wrong with it. But what we're going to do, we're trying to approach this from a very positive angle. And the main purpose is to talk about writing, talk about our love of writing, talk about our exploration and our discoveries in writing, but also offer a platform to other people who are talented but under the current system wouldn't get a chance to be published. That's the main aim of the Unpublishables, is to create a platform where people who would otherwise be unpublishable can be published. So what we're going to do, over a period of time, we'll have a whole load of these podcasts with all different subjects and topics, and we're going to end up sort of doing our competitions. We're going to end up doing a bit of publishing, sort of short story collections and things like that, and even have like our very own slush pile stored electronically on a website where people can submit and other people can go and read. Because really, at the end of the day, it's not about publishing. It's not the hardcore having that book in your hand. It is reaching a readership, because there are so many books sitting on shelves that are going unread. They've been published, but they're unread because they're on people's shelves in homes, in libraries, in bookshops, in second-hand junk shops. And it's not about actually getting published, it's actually about getting read. And that's the important thing.
It's also
or heard, yes.
Or heard, yeah.
Yeah.
I brought that up because a lot of the work that I do is for radio, all about words and music together. So it's a real kind of focal point for writers. And it's surprising how many people who don't necessarily consider themselves to be poets will write a little bit of poetry or a small piece of prose and just send it in, and I will read it, or they can read it themselves. And it's another dimension to it, really, because, like most writers, I was also, for many years, the kind of person who would write and write and write. I wouldn't even let anybody see it.
Oh, yeah,
Never
we've
mind
all been through
submit
that
it.
phase.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, yes. Yeah. Fear of plagiarism and just fear of
shyness.
shyness.
Yeah.
It's those two factors. You're either worried someone's going to steal your idea, or you're just worried you're going to embarrass that person, or you're going to embarrass yourself because you present them with something that's just utter rubbish. I think also, I'm going to quickly jump in here and clarify a very important thing. And I'm going to clear up a mystery that very many people burden themselves with. And it's a misconception. And it's the misconception is that you are only a writer if you've been published. That is not true. What makes you a writer is if you take it seriously. If you're just a jobbing kind of like scribble something down on a notepad, whimsically thinking to yourself, oh, writing, that sounds interesting, I want to be a writer. Or if you're trying to write a book in the hope of getting famous and getting rich, you're not a writer, you're an amateur or you're a hack. If you sit down in the same way an artist, a painting artist, would sit down at a canvas and very carefully create an item of beauty that you want to share and have people enjoy, you're a writer. That is the writer, the person who takes it seriously. And it doesn't matter whether another person takes you seriously or not. It doesn't matter whether or not a publisher deems you worthy of publication, because a lot of the time the stuff that gets published isn't being published because it's worthy of publication. It's getting published because it's going to be commercial. And being commercial and being literate are different things. And it goes for all the arts as well. And there's probably many sort of painting artists and performing artists of all manner who probably are watching this and nodding and go, oh, yeah, you're so right. So the main thing is we are being positive. Yes,
absolutely. We
do hit back, but we hit back with a positive. This is not a negative boo-hoo, we're in the slush pile. This is a positive. Yeah, we are in the slush pile, but that doesn't mean that we're not any good. It just means we're somewhere else to other people. Because there's two slush piles. There's the slush pile that doesn't get published, and then there's the slush pile that has been published. Because the library of history is full of authors who you've never heard of, who sold thousands in their day. And the reason they sold it, because for one reason or other they were popular, not because they were good, not because they were talented, but probably because they were just lucky, or they knew someone and was in the right place at the right time, or something happened by some sheer quirk of fate that meant they got enough public attention for a whole load of people to go out there and buy their book all in one go and make it a bestseller. A bestseller is not a good novel. A bestseller means good marketing. Bestseller means you're there in the moment and you've created something that a lot of people at that time think is worthy of attention. Whether they go back to it in 5, 10, 15, 20 or 50 years' time is something completely different. So don't worry if you've never been published. It's not as bad as all that. It's whether or not you get read. That's the important thing.
I'd also like to say that the slush pile, as you gave kind of two definitions of the slush pile, or two readings of the slush pile. For me, the slush pile is more like a compost heap. It's not that nothing is ever going to come of it. It's just perhaps what comes of it is not what you would expect. But it's all organic. It all helps you to grow as a person. It all helps your writing to grow as a kind of a technical skill, and also in terms of particular pieces. So, you know, I look back at some of the work that I did maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I'm certainly not embarrassed about it. Certainly not embarrassed. But I look at it and I think, all right, I would have done this differently slightly in this way and this way and this way, because we're always growing, because that's what creative people do.
Though, of course, it's always good to know when to leave something alone, because I used to be an archaeologist and a historian, and I know about the dangers of tinkering with things when they shouldn't be tinkered with. And although the temptation is always there to periodically go back and edit, because you've changed as a person, you can't betray the person you once were, because if you sat there writing and the ghost of your future self comes in and starts editing, how offended are you going to be? You're going to be mortified, aren't you? So how dare you? You know, you wrote it on that day in that way because that's the way you were feeling and that's what you wanted it to say. And if a new you goes back at a later date and starts tinkering with it, you might make it technically better, improve the punctuation and the grammar, in my case, for instance. But artistically, they could well be vandalising it.
Yeah, destroying the whole feel.
Yeah, because some of my early stuff is incredibly romantic. And I don't mean romantic as in Mills and Boon. I mean romantic as in fantasy romance, as in the traditional 18th century idea of romance, in that it's an adventure. And it's quite boys' own stuff at times and places. And I would probably look at it and cringe. But I've got to keep it as it is, because that's what the me of the 1990s was thinking and feeling and writing at that time.
I like to look at it as if it's like a child's artwork. You would never go to your child's artwork and start correcting the position of things and rubbing things out. It is what it is, where it is, at that time and place, and that's what's beautiful about it.
Well, the other thing is, sort of going back to the history side of thing, is also a historic document as well. And so it's the same as taking something like the Mona Lisa and giving her a pair of Ray-Ban shades, you know, sort of changing her hair dress.
And plenty of pop artists have done that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's a really different skill, isn't it?
You do it in a new medium. But what I mean is, if you go up to the actual original painting and think to yourself, that hairdo is far too Renaissance, let's make it sort of vibrant pink, you know, let's change her clothes, you know, let's make her, let's change that background, let's put an aeroplane flying across, you know, things like that. That's where it goes wrong. If someone like Andy Warhol wants to come along and do a pop art version, yeah, brilliant, I'm all in favour of that. I'm all in favour of reinterpretation, a bit of reusing, and or sort of like very overt inspiration. You know, I don't mind any of that. just as long as you leave the original on its own and allow future generations to see what that original looked like. Now, if you really desperately want to tweak something you've written, make 2 versions. Have the original version, which is your heritage edition, that remains, it's got like literally got a preservation order on it.
Yeah.
You know, make it grade listed. Say, right, I wrote that in 1992. That's how it's going to stay.
One good way of doing that is self-publishing it.
Yes.
And just getting 1 or 2 copies so that you've got a definite article in front of you. Yeah.
And then you can have your updated version. You know, you can have your revised edition where you add in a few things, take a few things out. Because we've all done it. You know, we've all gone afterwards. Oh, it would be so much better if it ended this way. It would be so much better if I'd done this. If only they hadn't said that and had said this. But you just got to leave it, because otherwise you sort of always end up on a bit of a cycle where you just keep going back to the same old things all the time.
Yeah.
And you don't do anything new.
You never get anything completed.
Yeah, you've got to know when to leave something on the shelf. Yeah, and then it becomes the never-ending story. Yeah, you never ever finish it. You never put it to bed and think, right, that's it, it's over. You always sort of think, no, I just want to go back and tweak it. I just want to do that. And the thing of it is, it's a bit arrogant in the way, because the assumption is by doing that you've made it better, but you might actually be making it worse.
I'm sure many times we have done that.
Oh, yeah, I'm guilty as hell of that. I've probably taken some really good stuff and completely ruined it. You know, you kind of sort of live and learn. The point of it is I've stopped doing that.
Yeah.
I've got my little heritage files, and for good or bad, that's the way they are. I mean, my earliest one is from 1988. It was the first story I actually completed outside of school, because I wanted to be a writer from the age of 8, and actually started writing regularly from the age of 14. And I'd attempted many stories previously, but this is the first one I actually sat down and properly finished from beginning to end. And it must be gut-wrenchingly bad, hideously bad, embarrassing.
You were 14.
I know. However, I've kept it. The stuff I've done in between, I've sort of thrown away because it has been pretty rubbish. But I forced myself to keep that because that is a historic document. And I've only once or twice ever dared to actually look at it and read little bits of it. As awful as it is, it's staying.
Good for you. Because it's all what makes you the person that you are, what makes you the writer that you are.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
All the rest of it. So with this Unpublishables podcast, what we're going to do is each week we'll have a vague theme, and we'll share with you some bits and bobs that we might have written or that we found and enjoyed and we thought represented particular points. So that could be good. Structure-wise, tell us about our structure.
Well, the structure is to have a theme, introduce the theme and discuss the theme, and then invite the responses. Now, that can be the responses and ongoing discussion, say on YouTube, in the comments section. It could be a possibility of you contacting us and emailing us, or it could be even you sort of submitting your ideas and your stories, where you kind of say, yeah, actually, I've written about this, but I wrote about it in a completely different way to the way you wrote about it. So what we can do is then go back and have like a part 2. So it's kind of sort of a bit like sort of the after party, so to speak. So we'll introduce it, we'll discuss it, we'll invite feedback, we'll take a look at that feedback, and we'll publish the results. That is our structure.
We'll be giving you an email address to send submissions to. That can be in the form of a simple audio file, saved as an MP3 or a WAV file. It's like a little community, isn't it?
Yes. I'm also, if you don't really like the sound of your own voice, which very many people seem to have a problem with, me included, get someone else to read it for you, but just tell us that it is someone else that has read it, because we don't mind that. That's perfectly acceptable, because after all, that's what they do on the radio the whole time. It's very rare for the actual author to really read their own stuff, and in some cases it's actually better if they don't.
Oh, I've noticed on my radio show there are a number of writers who send things in as an MP3 or a WAV file because they don't mind the sound of their voice, and then when I suggest to other writers, would you like to read this yourself, because I tend to read them, they say no. Not that I don't like the sound of my voice, but because I like an alternative expression of what the words mean. There was one of my friends sent me an email not so long ago saying he thought that I captured something completely different from what was intended. So, yeah, get somebody else to read it if you don't feel as if you can read it or want to read it. It's not a problem at all.
Also, if you're a little bit of a Luddite, like I am, and don't really like technology, because I should also have said that Leslie is the technocrat here.
I like the tech.
Yeah, which is good. I mean, she has the technical skills, and I'm just stupid enough to agree to do it. But if you're a little bit like me, stick it on something like a Word document, ping it off to us, and we'll read it for you, and that's fine. So if you don't want to read it, can't find anyone to read it, or just don't really have the technology to actually record yourself and send it to us.
Although it is easy enough to do on a normal smartphone. The quality is usually good enough, just by the way.
And this is my smartphone.
This is not your standard smartphone.
No. So, for those of you who really aren't that good with technology, if you want to do it the Word way, send us the Word document, and if we like it, we'll read it for you, because it'll be good for us too.
Yeah, of course it will.
Because we're not just wanting to read our own stuff, we want to hear other people's stuff.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a splash screen at the beginning and a splash screen at the end, and it will include contact details, email address, website, etc., etc. And also I will gradually update it as we put this podcast onto different platforms, so you'll know exactly what platforms it's on, and maybe we'll even have our own hashtag or something like that.
It will be a growing empire, and how far and wide that empire extends really depends on you. If you like this, if you respond to this, and we'll carry on doing it, and we'll carry on doing it happily. Because see, the thing of it is, we have both been teachers in our time, and the thing that motivates us is helping other people. We are obviously interested in helping ourselves because we are aspiring writers. Well, we are actually writers. I've written about 30 odd magazine articles, and I was a feature editor for the Armourer magazine, and I've had 2 factual books published by traditional publishers. It's just that's only constituted half of my writing ambition. The other half of my writing ambition is as a creative writer. So yeah, we are here to promote our own stuff, but because we like helping other people, while we're here promoting our own stuff, we see no harm whatsoever in helping to promote other people and to gain an appreciative readership. Now, I don't mean a fan base. I'm not looking for fame. I am just looking for an audience.
Yeah.
I would like people to help me fulfill my ambition by reading what I write and enjoying what I write in the same way that I enjoy writing it. Also, what I'd also like to do is encourage someone else to do the same thing. And one of the greatest things for me to see in the future will be someone on, say, for instance, like the Jonathan Ross show, talking about their writing and him saying to them, how did you get started? What gave you a big break? And it'd be these 2 kooky weirdos known as the Unpublishables. That would give me no...
Speak for yourself, Richard.
That would give me no end of pride.
She said in her best Margaret Rutherford kind of voice.
That wasn't Margaret Rutherford.
It was. Well, it's the best that I can do anyway. But I know exactly what you mean. It's nice. Yeah. It'd be nice to get that.
Because the thing is, there's just so much selfishness in the world. You look at all these Z-grade supposed celebrities who are famous for not really having done anything. And who do they help? They don't help anyone. They don't help anyone at all. And on the odd occasions when they do kind of stand for something, it's always something that's affected them personally. And what I want to do is just take a complete random stranger who's got some sort of talent and help them and go, there you go. And if they make it and I don't, well, so be it. But if we make it together, all the better. We measure success all in the wrong way in this world, and the greatest success that you can have is in the achievement of helping others. And I know that sounds a load of wishy-washy sort of new age hippie nonsense, and trust me, it isn't, because one of the reasons why I need Leslie so much, why she's so helpful, is the fact I have no inner hippie. And
I have an inner and an outer hippie. I do really well at that.
And she makes up for my hippie deficiency syndrome. So when I say I'm here to help others as much as I'm here to help myself, I do actually mean it. Because I'm genuinely interested in seeing what other people write. Because for so long, I've written in isolation. As Leslie said earlier, I mean, for years, and absolute years, I wrote in complete and utter isolation. I didn't show anyone anything. And it's a case of me not just showing my stuff to other people. It's me wanting to see other people's, because I want to see what they're doing. I'm genuinely interested in what other people write. And I want to see what other people write without that filter of someone else's opinion, because there's a very strict censorship system in operation, and it's called publishing. And everything I've ever written has always been censored, because it's always passed through the hands of an editor, an agent, a publisher, a bookseller, and I've never gone to the raw material at source and gone directly to the author and had their work handed to me exactly as they wrote it. I've always had it through this system of Ministry of Propaganda type filtration. Now, in many ways, that's a good thing, because it has prevented me from reading an awful lot of rubbish. But it hasn't completely protected me from an awful lot of rubbish. Another one of the reasons why we're here is the fact that the publishing system is in some ways a little bit broken, because it won't publish something because it's really good, but it will publish something else because it was written by someone who's already famous for doing something.
Or if it fits into a particular genre that they've had success with the previous year, and it still seems to be kind of topical. And
or it's the here and now. It's suddenly, it's kind of like, oh, it's got a number of characters of a particular ethnicity, and those people and that culture or that slice of history is now suddenly very popular. It's all in vogue, so everything has to feature that, or it's all genre based. It's like, oh yeah, murder mysteries are really popular, so everything's got to be a murder mystery, or it's got to be a TV tie-in or something like that. What I want is the unadulterated. I want the pure, raw material as written, and if it's bad, so be it. But I'm also quite certain it's actually going to be very, very good. You know, I want to see what it is that all these agents and editors have been reading over the years and denying me.
You said it all, Richard. There's not a lot else that I can actually contribute to that now. You've been the explainer today. It's not been me. But we've explained who we are, why we're here. Hopefully it will encourage you to watch further of our videos.
There'll be times when you think, oh wow, this is it, I'm really going to do it, I'm going to make it. History will remember me. I'll be on the back of a tenner one day. I'll have a plaque in St Paul's, and I'll be read on, BBC Radio. And then there'll be other times when you'll be thinking, do you know what, one day after I've died, that'll be it. No one will ever know that I'd ever written a word.
And is that why we write? In order to fulfil our place or cement our place in society, to ensure some kind of longevity, at least for an hour past our passing. I don't know why we do it. I think we do it because we can't help doing it. One of the only ways that we can actually be who we should be as human beings. And because of that, you do want it to be retained at least for a while afterwards. You want to leave something, don't you?
For me, it's a number of things. I think, people talk about rockets and all sorts of technology, but I still think humanity's greatest innovation is literature, because it is, to this date, still the one and only means of time travel that we have, because it's the one way that the dead can legitimately talk to us, the one way that we can go to the past, visit the future, and in some ways that's quite magical. I like it because also it enables you to clarify your thoughts and express yourself in a way that you might not otherwise be able to express yourself. It's a justification because you can explain things, you can apologise for things if necessary, or you can just make believe and be someone different for a while. And it's a means of escape. You can use it to run and hide, or you can use it as a celebration, because you can use it to record happy memories as well as visiting unhappy memories. So it's a form of celebration and exorcism at the same time.
It also encourages empathy.
Yes.
With others who are not as we are. you know, there's many a thing that you learn from a fictional book that you wouldn't expect to have learned.
And sort of taking people to places they wouldn't otherwise go, introducing them to people they wouldn't otherwise meet. And the other thing is we human beings are at our happiest when we're creating things. And that can be something three-dimensional, or it can be something that's abstract, such as writing. And I suppose that is it. It's the creative impulse. It's that desire to find fulfillment, to find happiness. Now, some people find fulfillment and happiness through material means. Some people find fulfillment and happiness through emotional means, in the form of relationships. And then there's others of us who find fulfillment through the medium of writing. Not exactly playing God, but just making worlds that people can visit and enjoy.
It made me feel really happy thinking of it as a time machine. Yeah.
I've always looked at it like that. I mean, that's part of the reason why I've loved history, and that's part of the reason why I've loved literature, is the fact that, you know, I've had a conversation with Julius Caesar because he's told me about the Gallic Wars, and also I've visited the future because H.G. Wells took me there and showed it to me, bleak as it is.
Okay. Well, this has been Leslie.
And Richard.
And we are
the
Unpublishables. And we've been here today. This has been our very first session, just talking to you about what we're going to be doing in the future and why we're here, why we are the Unpublishables. In our next broadcast, we will be working on the subject of Lost. And we'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.